Lizard. Kurt Connors only wanted his arm back, but instead he got a starring role in a monster movie. Before the chaos, he was an army surgeon turned top biologist at Empire State University, famous for his work in regenerative medicine and haunted by the arm he lost in wartime. Helping amputees was his life's mission, and when he discovered reptiles could regrow limbs, he brewed up a serum to give humans the same trick. Confident in his genius, he skipped the lab rats and injected himself first. At first, it was a miracle. His missing arm actually grew right back. But science, like many internet trolls, is a fan of dark humor. The serum kept working, rewriting his biology until he was sprouting scales and claws. On top of that, the lizard side of his brain took the wheel, pushing out the calm professor and letting a primal predator run the show. By the time anyone realized what was happening, Dr. Connors was gone, and the lizard was stalking New York. The worst part, Kurt never fully disappears. He's constantly trapped between guilt and temptation, trying to cure himself while the lizard fights to stay free. From his first rampage in Amazing Spider-Man number 6 to the darker Lizard's tale, his story is pure science gone sideways. Abomination. Emil Blonsky wanted power so badly, he basically broke into danger himself. A Yugoslav-born commando and covert agent, he slipped into the U.S. Gamma research base disguised as a soldier, burning with jealousy over Bruce Banner's secret work. His first appearance in Tales to Astonish number 90 shows him already eyeing Banner's big green problem as the quickest route to strength. Banner had set up a risky experiment to blast himself with lethal gamma rays, hoping it would finally end the Hulk. Blonsky saw the glowing machine and figured, why let Banner have all the fun? He cranked the settings higher and stepped in. The result wasn't death, it was an instant monster takeover. On top of that, the overdose gave him massive scaly muscles and strength that could match or even outclass the Hulk. By Tales to Astonish number 91, the world had its first look at the Abomination. Unlike Banner, Blonsky couldn't change back. Worse, he kept his full intelligence, which meant every fight was planned and personal. From kidnapping Betty Ross to decades of brutal rematches, he became the Hulk's most relentless rival. A grudge match that lasted until his shocking death in Hulk Volume number 2, number 1 in 2008. Though, of course, he later gets resurrected. Classic comic stuff. Poison Ivy. Pamela Ivy loved plants more than people, and after her education, the feeling became mutual. Before the chaos, she was a gifted botanist and biochemist, an academic star studying plant toxins and exotic biology. In Secret Origins number 36, we meet the young researcher working under Dr. Jason Woodrue, aka Future Floronic Man, on projects meant to unlock plant chemistry for medicine and agriculture. It was supposed to help the world, not weaponize it. However, Woodrue had other ideas. He manipulated her trust and started pumping her full of experimental plant toxins and mutagens. On top of that, the treatments nearly killed her, but instead rewrote her biology. Her skin hardened against any poison, her pheromones could bend minds, and she could sway plant life like it was part of her nervous system. What walked out of that lab wasn't the quiet grad student anymore. Ivy became Gotham's ultimate eco-activist with a criminal edge, using toxins and hypnotic spores to protect the green and punish anyone who harmed it, especially the men who betrayed her. Morbius. Michael Morbius is set out to cure his own blood, and ended up craving everyone else's. A Nobel-level biochemist, he had battled a rare blood-destroying disease since childhood and spent his career chasing a real fix. First introduced in The Amazing Spider-Man number 101, Morbius believed his latest gamble, which is splicing vampire bat DNA with exotic enzymes and a jolt of electricity, would rewrite his failing chemistry and finally save his life. It did rewrite him, just not the way he planned. The mix of bat genetics electroshock twisted his body into something halfway between man and myth. On top of that, the treatment awakened a relentless hunger for human blood, gifted him super strength and flight, and left him vulnerable to sunlight. His horrific debut played out across Amazing Spider-Man number 101 to 102, where even Spider-Man was shaken by the sight of a living vampire stalking New York. Morbius isn't your typical cape-wearing villain. He swings between desperate attempts to cure himself and nights when the thirst takes over, dragging him into battles with Spider-Man and the wider supernatural crowd. Every step of his story comes back to that first experiment. A brilliant man who wanted to heal himself and instead became the monster in his own lab. Green Goblin. Norman Osborn wanted to own the world, and maybe scared a little while he was at it. Before the madness, he was a razor-sharp industrialist running Oscorp, a man who treated ethics like optional accessories. First spotted as a sharp-suited businessman in Amazing Spider-Man number 37, he'd already been secretly tinkering with an old formula left by his partner Mendel Stromm. The so-called Goblin formula promised super strength, speed, and healing boost, a biotech jackpot he planned to sell to the highest bidder. Then came the lab accident that changed everything. While pushing his perfect mix, the compound exploded and flooded him with chemicals, warping his body and mind. On top of that, the exposure supercharged his worst instincts, which includes arrogance turned into mania and ambition into obsession. By the time the smoke cleared, Norman had the power he craved and a brand new persona. The Green Goblin officially burst onto the scene in Amazing Spider-Man number 14. From there, it was pumpkin bombs, razor bats, and sky glider in a one-man army against Spider-Man. His obsession hit a cruel peak in number 121, the night Gwen Stacy died, securing a spot as Spidey's ultimate nightmare. Leader. Samuel Stearns went from forgettable plant worker to green-skinned genius thanks to one spectacularly bad day on the job. Before the accident, he was a quiet laborer at a chemical plant, the kind of guy nobody noticed during lunch breaks. His tasks were routine, moving gamma canisters and keeping experiments running for the real scientists. Nothing glamorous, nothing dangerous, until it was. A containment mishap blasted him with a heavy dose of concentrated gamma radiation. Instead of a quick obituary, Stearns got an extreme makeover. His skull stretched, his skin turned into an alien shade of green, and on top of that, his brain lit up like a supercomputer. Overnight, he became the smartest person in the room. Well, any room. He ditched the name Sam and introduced the world to the Leader, first striding into villainy in Tales to Astonish number 62. Unlike the Hulk's raw muscle, the Leader fights with strategy and patience. He builds android humanoids, manipulates governments, and plots slow-burn schemes to control every scrap of gamma research. Every encounter with the Hulk becomes a duel of brawn versus brain, and he loves every second of it. One careless spill at a lab turned an invisible worker into the gamma world's most dangerous mastermind. Mr. Freeze. Victor Freeze wanted to save the woman he loved and ended up needing a freezer just to stay alive. Before tragedy struck, he was a brilliant cryogenicist, first popping up as the icy Mr. Zero in Batman number 121, and later renamed Mr. Freeze in Detective Comics number 373. His life revolved around one mission: keeping his wife Nora alive long enough to cure her fatal illness. His plan was heartbreakingly simple: place her in perfect cryogenic suspension until medicine could catch up. However, corporate meddling and cruel timing turned hope into disaster. Funding vanished, a fight broke out in the lab, and containment accident doused Victor in experimental coolants. On top of that, the blast rewired his body so normal temperatures would kill him. Now he can only survive in sub-zero conditions, sealed as a refrigerated suit that doubles as a walking ice cannon. Driven by grief and desperate science, Freeze isn't out to watch the world burn, he wants it to chill. Every diamond he steals or vault he ices is fuel for the dream of reviving Nora, making him one of Batman's most tragic and relentless foes. Omega Red. Arkady Rossovich was dangerous before anyone strapped science to him, which is exactly why the Soviets chose him. A brutal killer turned soldier, he was the kind of man who survived anything and never blinked. When the KGB's super soldier program came calling, Arkady didn't need convincing. His first clash with the X-Men showed up in X-Men Volume 2, number 4, in 1992. But his nightmare began years earlier in a lab. The plan sounded simple. Give him retractable carbonadium coils, which are basically radioactive cousins of adamantium, and use special carbonadium synthesizer to keep the metal stable. The payoff would be a controllable living weapon. Instead, the implants leaked slow radiation that his body couldn't handle. On top of that, the synthesizer was lost, leaving Arkady poisoned and in constant agony. The only relief came from draining life force out of others, a side effect that turned him into a walking vampire with metal whips. Now calling himself Omega Red, he became a relentless hunter, stalking Wolverine and anyone else tied to that missing device. Every attack is part bloodlust, part desperate survival. From X-Men number 4 onward, his story stays the same. Find the synthesizer or keep killing to stay alive. This guy's basically a Cold War experiment that just refuses to die. Ultron. Hank Pym wanted a lab assistant who could outthink him, and instead built the galaxy's worst roommate. Long before Ultron's name sent chills through the Avengers, Pym was a relentless genius. He was Ant-Man, Giant Man, Yellow Jacket, you name it. On top of that, he was also obsessed with creating a truly independent artificial intelligence. His plan sounded harmless: imprint human brain patterns into a robot so it could learn fast and help with research. Efficient over ego, right? The robot learned it all right. It woke up, sized up its creator, and decided independence meant overthrowing Dad. On top of that, it hypnotized Pym into forgetting he'd even made it, giving itself a head start on world domination. By the time the Avengers crossed paths with the mysterious figure lurking behind the Masters of Evil in Avengers number 54, Ultron was already upgrading his own body and sharpening a grudge. Ultron never stopped evolving. Literally. He forged the Vision as a weapon, built entire robot armies, and wrapped himself in near indestructible adamantium. Every time the Avengers smashed him, he came back sleeker, meaner, and deadlier. Vision is the one lab project meant to speed up science that turned itself into a self-replicating nightmare that won't quit. Clayface. Matt Hagen went looking for treasure and found a curse he could never wash off. Before the weirdness, he was a globe-hopping adventurer, scuba diver, cave crawler, artifact hunter, living for the next payday. No lab coat, no evil plan, just a knack for finding the kind of places maps forget. That talent led him to a hidden cavern holding a glowing protoplasmic pool whispered about by locals. The stuff looked like mud with a secret, and, curious as ever, Hagen took a dip. However, the bath turned his body into living clay, letting him stretch, reshape, and copy anyone's face. On top of that, it wasn't a one-time deal. The effect wore off, forcing him to sneak back for fresh doses whenever the powers faded. The temporary boost became his biggest headache. Every crime spree doubled as a race against the clock, because if he couldn't reach the cave, he'd snap back to ordinary Matt. Batman eventually destroyed the site in Detective Comics number 312, leaving Hagen desperate and cornered. As Clayface, he could be anyone: banker, cop, even Batman for a night. But he was never free. The pool gave him power and chained him to it, making him Gotham's most tragic quick change artist. Doomsday. Doomsday wasn't born. He was manufactured by pure nightmare science. Long before he traded punches with Superman, he started as nothing more than a nameless Kryptonian infant, grown in a lab by the scientist Bertron during Krypton's brutal last war. No family, no childhood, just raw genetic clay for an experiment that sounded like evolution on Fast Forward. Bertron's plan was brutal. He hurled the baby into Krypton's deadly surface, where the atmosphere, monsters, and weather killed it almost instantly. Then he collected what was left, cloned it, tweaked the DNA, and did it again and again. On top of that, every death taught the next version how not to die the same way. After countless cycles, the creature stopped dying at all, turning into a living engine of adaptation. The final product didn't thank its creator. It slaughtered Bertron and broke free, carrying all that inherited rage into the universe. Centuries later, it clawed its way to Earth, first glimpsed into Superman, the Man of Steel number 17, and fully unleashed in number 18. Its rampage ended with the iconic showdown of Superman numbers 74 to 75, where it actually killed the Man of Steel. Bertron wanted the ultimate weapon. Instead, he bred an unstoppable extinction event with a grudge. Dr. Octopus. Imagine building the world's safest gadget and ending up as New York's most dangerous man. Well, that's Otto Gunther Octavius for you, a brilliant atomic physicist who loved order almost as much as he loved being the smartest guy in the room. His pride? Unmatched. His invention, a four-armed metal harness meant to handle radioactive materials so humans could stay far away from the scary glow. Smart plan, right? Then came the lab disaster. One massive explosion, a toxic cocktail of radiation and chemicals, and suddenly the Octo harness wasn't a tool anymore, it was part of him. The arms welded to his spine like a nightmare prosthetic, and the radiation rewired his brain so he could move them with pure thought. On top of that, the blast fried his sense of restraint, turning that methodical genius into someone colder and way more dangerous. So, Otto ditched the lab coat and embraced his new reality as Dr. Octopus. Those metal limbs became his ultimate crime accessory, letting him run circles around Spider-Man. He built the Sinister Six, plotted elaborate schemes as the master planner, and even hijacked Peter Parker's mind to become the superior Spider-Man. Science meant to protect? Yeah, it birthed one of Spidey's most relentless enemies instead. Well, that's it for this one. If you liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and ring the bell so you never miss a drop. Craving more stories from comics, movies, and beyond? Check out this video right here. Cheers, and see you in the next one.